military service. Would my lifeguard situational awareness translate to military service? Today's Saturday, 2 May 2026, and here I, Tanis, she, her, hers of Seattle, ruminate about if my situational awareness skills I developed and used working as a lifeguard approximately 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012 would translate to military service, and if so, in what ways? I worked as a lifeguard, and we had specific training as a lifeguard, as well as kind of like broader CPR, AED, that kind of thing, bloodborne pathogens. There was a lifeguarding test I had to take for a particular position I applied for in the Seattle Department of Parks and Recreation, and one of the things we were trained on was situational awareness. So that's like literally was the entire job of a lifeguard, is to be in a position where it's essentially like assessing the scene and making sure people are safe and following the rules, and the rules are there for safety and that kind of thing. And so it was very much I did have to make rescues, kind of thing, and in making rescues, and just in general, or if the pool deck is wet, then making really sure I'd like to enforce the no running on the pool deck, because if it's a tile pool deck and it's wet, and I don't want somebody to slip and crack their head open on the tile. All right. So just some basic, like, they're there and they're not thinking about it, so the lifeguard's there to point it out, and they might like, yeah, it's better than being dead, right? But we don't say that, right? So there's part of situational awareness and in terms of like what we say, and what rules to enforce. So like I have to be able to identify that there's water on the pool deck and to enforce a rule that I would normally enforce, but like the urgency is a little bit higher. So like if the person is running, try to get, say no running on the pool deck before they get to that puddle, so that they don't step in it and like slip and get hurt. Right. So there's kind of predictive ability in terms of, I suppose, then like being like that. it's a very simple form of prediction, like there's a puddle in that person's way and they're going too fast, which they shouldn't be doing anyway, but as a lifeguard, because that could end in a bad thing, I need to act earlier. And that kind of situational awareness. And there was in my state, Washington State, or in the Pacific Northwest, when I was working, they brought up an example of somebody, it took them like a number of minutes to respond, and they went to prison for manslaughter because it took them too long to respond, or something like that. So it was a high risk, life or death on the line kind of position, on whether, like, if we did our job, and so it was like in a military context, some of that might apply, not necessarily the exact situations. I would say perhaps so the life being on the line, I've dealt I've done that work experience, right? That's 6 counted years. I will say approximately 6 counted years. And so there's a little bit of, I have experience with that, and that part might translate, the exact situations might not. I think perhaps it would be a good like base layer to build my foundational skills upon. Perhaps the biggest difference in military service would be that people might be like, we might be walking into a room or a building that was previously on the other side of the military. It's not fixed venue, fixed workplace, fixed utility of the building, like or pool or whatever, where I was working. The pool is where I worked. So in that sense of, right, it's being, and if it was the military of the other sides, they were using a building or a room or something, we're coming in and we're commandeering it, right? So there's a little bit of the utility of the room might change by us entering the room. So that's a bit different. And then there's the, we might be shot at. There might have been traps. So which actually invokes, we did have to do scans, and we did have to do locker room sweeps and that kind of stuff when I was a lifeguard. to like just make sure the general facilities were safe for us and the patrons. So that actually does like translate. However, the stakes are perhaps a little bit different if the, you know, expectation is we're going into the other side's building and they're armed and ready for us. You know, that's a bit different than just like I'm walking through the lifeguard, like I'm a lifeguard walking through the locker room at the YMCA, which and it's there to serve communities and build families and stuff like that. It's a bit different than like walking into this is a military facility for the other side. So I would need skill development. However, some of it, yes, and I have approximately 6 years of of work experience. So I would go with yes, but not necessarily to everything. And I'm Tanis Shearers of Seattle.